we start Module 3. The topic is Dynamic Content with JavaScript. Part A, Basic Features of JavaScript. 8.1, Introduction to Dynamic HTML. First, let's look at what is the dynamic HTML. This topic corresponds to our textbook, Chapter 6, Dynamic HTML, Dynamic Content with JavaScript, exactly the same title as our Module 3 title. Yeah. Because if you look at our textbook, we have a lot of materials. Many chapters, a lot of materials. If I follow the natural chapters one after another, we won't have enough time. So I have to find an efficient way. So I want to cover those features so I feel, more useful, frequently used through a sequence of examples. So I do not just go through the features first, because in that way, we don't have that much time to do it. And then also not very interesting. If you just look at the features, if you do not use them, not very interesting. So I want to work on examples directly. So we can see those examples. So we can play around, then we learn features from examples. So in that way, I can do much more efficiently. Several chapters, the materials, I can combine them. Yeah. All right, so let's start from the first concept. A dynamic HTML document. It is just the HTML, but we need to do part of the content dynamically. How? In what way? So let's look at the description. First, those parts we can change. So what parts we can change? These parts. Tag attributes. So you have many elements. Each element you have some attributes. So if you want, you can change any attributes. Okay? The values, more specifically, the values of those attributes. So then you can change a lot of things. So that's one. Tag contents. Sometimes we want to change the content. All right? Yeah. Element style properties. Yeah. So the CSS part, the style part, we can also change. So pretty much we can change everything related to one particular HTML element. So if you want. Yeah. Yeah. So that is very important to make a web page that can do a lot of things. This is very important. But under what situation you can change them? Yeah, here, let me describe the situation. Yeah. When users make some interactions through browser events. Yeah, sometimes because interactions, right? We emphasize interactions between user and the browsers and your web applications through browser events. This concept, events. Browser has many events. So the user doing some interactions, some actions, those actions will trigger some of the special events. Yeah. But there is another thing, other than the user interaction, the browser can also generate some events. Okay, yeah. The browser can also generate some events, but the user's triggered events, that is the most part. Yeah, most part. Yeah. For some special situations, the browser could generate some events. Yeah, So we will see that example. Yeah. All right. Now we want to understand events. Yeah. HTML events. Yeah. An HTML event can be something. Yeah. So here, two cases. First, the browser can generate some event. Yeah, we will see that example soon. Yeah. Or something a user does. Yeah. This is the the biggest part. Yeah. Biggest portion is that. Yeah. Small portion browser. This is a small portion. Okay. Small portion. Big portion. Okay. Yeah. So let's look at some examples of HTML events. Yeah. First example, an HTML web page has finished loading. Yeah. The browser needs to load your HTML document. It takes some time to complete the loading action, behavior. Yeah. After that, one event is created. And this one, it is not created by a user, it is created by browser. Yeah. So the first case, that is corresponds to the, this case. Yeah. All right. An HTML input field was changed. That's by the user input field. The user, you need to enter some data. But when you make some change, you trigger an event. Yeah. Next example, when HTML button was clicked, also user clicked the button. Yeah. So then you trigger another event. Yeah. So there are many different kinds of events you can trigger. Yeah. All right. So then we want to see when events happen, what do we do? What actions should we do? Okay, yeah. Typically, we call JavaScript functions. The triggered events can call JavaScript functions for some special data processing. Yeah. So that's the basic logic. Yeah. All right, so then related to connection of these two things, events, JavaScript function, how do you connect them? So here, associate each element a JavaScript function through some event. So this thing, registration. Yeah. So we register an event. We register a JavaScript function with that event. How about that? Okay, so register JavaScript function associated with that event. Okay, yeah. We need to do this step. Yeah. After that, then you just write a code inside your JavaScript function to do the data processing. That's the whole mechanism. The whole mechanism for dynamic content. Yeah. All right. Next, let's look at our first example for this part. It is a radio button example. Yeah. So from now on, for all the examples I explain here, I post them together with the notes. Okay, so you can play around yourself. So you can test them and doing some interactions. Try to get a better understanding. For some of the examples, I may show in the demo, but for some of them, because it is pretty obvious. So I do not need to show the demo. Yeah. All right. The first example for our 8.1, two files. The first one, radio_.html. Second one, the JavaScript, external JavaScript file, radio_click.js. Yeah. These examples I select from our textbook. Yeah. So I download the source code textbook. So I select some of the examples. Yeah. So here, these two from chapter 5. Okay. All right. First, let's look at the HTML example. I do not display the whole HTML document. I just display the key part, the part that is relevant to the main points we want to discuss here. Yeah. All right, so these two radio buttons we want to discuss. Yeah. In the original program, there are 4 radio buttons, but here we do not need all 4. We just look at 2, it's enough. Okay. All right, so from these 2 radio buttons, first you can see we use the input element. Input element, HTML input element. There are many different kinds of input elements. Yeah. And we use the type attribute to specify different types. Yeah. Here we use the radio type. Radio button, radio type. Yeah. Input. Yeah. So that's the first. When you use radio buttons, usually you want to group a set of items. When you select one item in the group, all the other items are deselected. So that's the typical property of radio buttons. So for that reason, you need to define a group. How do you tell the browser these elements are grouped for those radio buttons? How do you tell the browser? Here, you use the name attribute to tell. Okay? For those radio buttons in the same group, you use the same name. So all the radio buttons in the same group, they should share the same group name. Here we use plain button as the group name. Okay? So all 4 radio buttons, they use this name. So then, yeah, so the browser will control, when one radio button is selected, the remaining in the group are deselected automatically. Okay? Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing, the main part, onClick equals a JavaScript function call. The name of the function, plain choice, with a parameter, some parameter. Okay? Yeah. All right. So here we use this event, onClick event, this HTML event. OnClick, so you can see when a user select or click that radio button, this event is triggered or generated. Okay, triggered. All right. So then, because we registered this JavaScript function, plain choice JavaScript function with this event, so this function will be called. So that's simple. All right. Then let's look at what happened after the function is called. Okay. Yeah. All right. When the JavaScript function is called, we need to provide a definition of the function. Okay. Yeah. Here, that is the definition. In the external JavaScript file, we have the definition of the whole function. All right, parameter, variable, plain. Then we use a switch statement. Yeah. I think with your programming background, you understand the meaning of the switch statement. Yeah. In C, C++, Java, we all use the switch statement. When the plain variable value takes 152, alert. Remember? So that window, alert window pop up, display a message in the window. You tell your user some information. Okay? So the user click OK button to dismiss it. Okay? All right. So the remaining, each radio button, there is a special message in that alert window. Yeah. The result here, I just put a screenshot. Yeah. So what you see is something like this. Okay. Yeah. Because this example is very simple, so I do not need to show you the demo. Yeah. Here, I just put a picture here. Yeah. All right. So from this example, so you can see how do we use JavaScript functions to do something special when the user makes some special actions. Yeah. All right. Now, our second example. It is quite different, this example, also from our textbook. Circle example. Yeah. So in this example, you can see we can draw circles. Circle example. Yeah. So the programs, also two programs, HTML, circles.html, and external JavaScript file. Yeah. First, let's look at the HTML file first. Very simple. In HTML, first, look at this unload event. Unload event. See? Yeah. So that's the browser-generated event, not user-generated, browser-generated. So this event, the browser has finished loading the page. Okay? So when the browser finishes loading the page, this event is triggered. So then a draw function, JavaScript draw function is called. And we will see the definition of this draw function. Then we want to draw graphics on the page, right? So when we need to draw the graphics, we need to use this canvas element. So this canvas element is a special element for drawing. Yeah. It is the new element for HTML5 version. The current version, we are using HTML5 version. Okay, the canvas, so we can draw graphics. Yeah, so very nice feature. Yeah, all right. So it is a container. The canvas, it's a container. So it creates a, area. The container means you can put a graphics. You can draw graphics. Put in this container. Yeah, graphics. So they are components of your graphics are treated as objects. Okay, so you put objects in this container. Yeah. All right. So look at this example. So we draw circle related shapes like this. Yeah. Yeah. We will look at the code. How do we draw these figures? Yeah. All right. Yeah, so to draw figures in a canvas element, we need to use JavaScript functions. Yeah, so on the fly. Yeah, yeah, because whenever you need, you can draw. Okay, so on the fly. Yeah, all right. Now let's look at the drawing function. Yeah. First, let's look at the preparation part. Yeah. So this is the preparation part. Okay, yeah. All right. First, this canvas, we assign an ID to it. So then we can create an object through its ID, the DOM variable, DOM, okay? Document Object Model, DOM. So later we will talk about that concept, document DOM concept. But here it is just a variable name, right? But this variable refers to an object. Object points to this element, and we will use it for drawing. All right. Next, we check. We want to make sure this object is ready for drawing, right? So here, DOM.getContext. Look at if its context object is empty or not. If the context object is null, nothing, right? Nothing, you cannot draw. If the context object is ready, ready, the browser prepares that object ready for us to draw figures, graphics, then it is true. So we get into the if statement. All right. So then, in order to draw the figure, we need to get object. Through this object, we can draw figures. Okay, we need that. Okay, So here, that DOM object called getContext function, 2D. Here you can see when you draw graphics, two types of graphics, right? 2D graphics and 3D graphics. Okay. HTML5 supports 3D graphics. So more complicated. Okay, 3D graphics. But here we just use the 2D graphics. So you tell, when you get a context object, you tell that we want an object for 2D drawing. All right. And this method, getContext method, returns a built-in HTML object. So this object, through this object, we can call many different methods, or the object can have properties, if we need to use. So then we can do the drawing. So this is the preparation part. After these lines, in the next slide, we will start drawing piece by piece. All right. So let's try to understand the drawing part, piece by piece. Actually, there are 3 pieces. Okay, piece 1, piece 2, and piece 3. 3 pieces. Okay, all right. Let's do it. The first piece. Look at this. Okay, draw the outer stroke circle. Okay, 3 lines. Let's try to understand these 3 lines. Okay, one by one. First, using the context object, we call begin path method. Begin path method. First, before we look at that, first let's understand the coordinate system. Okay, so the canvas, this is a canvas. When you draw, you need to use some coordinate system. The definition of coordinate, upper left corner. So this corner, upper left corner, that is the 0, 0, origin. Okay, so then you go the x direction, x component, y direction, y component. So this coordinate system, exactly what do we use in Java, right? In Java, we use this coordinate system. Because JavaScript, so based on the brief history we learned in Part C, Module 2, we know it borrowed a lot of features from Java. So, all right. So that's the coordinate system. Then, this begin path method. Okay. So it creates a new path. So we need to prepare a path to draw, right? do the preparation. Okay? Once created a path, future drawing commands are directed into the path, yeah, because we need to do several things in this path. Okay, yeah, and we use those steps to build this path. At the end, we draw it. Yeah, we prepare for it, then draw it. Yeah, all right. Then we draw that arc. Yeah. This circle, the arc. How do we draw that? We call this function or method, yeah, arc method. Yeah. So you can see all these parameters we need to use. Okay. The first two parameters, center of the circle, XY coordinate, 200, 200, location. So that's the center of your circle. Okay. The third one, radius. The radius 100 pixels. Radius. Okay. All right. Next one, start angle. That's 0. You start from 0 angle. Okay. Yeah. So here 0 angle. So you start like this. Yeah. Then rotate, end angle. But when you rotate, you need to specify direction. Clockwise direction or counterclockwise direction. Okay? And so here it says anti-clockwise. That means the anti-clockwise true or false. Okay? Yeah. Anti-clockwise true, you put true value, that means anti-clockwise true. You put false, anti-clockwise false. That's the meaning. Here we put false. Okay? We put false. Oh, yeah, it looks the opposite, right? Yeah, yeah. Default clockwise. Default clockwise, right? Default clockwise, true. Yeah. False, that's anti-clockwise. Yeah, if we use false, anti-clockwise, because default is clockwise. Non-default, true. Yeah. But here, actually, what do? We do, yeah, yeah, confused, yeah. So here, yeah, probably we can try to figure out, okay? Yeah, we can try to figure out, yeah, clockwise, anti-clockwise, yeah. So here, there is something not quite clear, okay? Anti-clockwise, true, false, yeah, yeah. We can figure out, yeah. So now, anyway, yeah, false, yeah. All right. Yeah, because 2 pi also this direction, but so you move around like that. Okay? Yeah, move around like that. Yeah. All right. So that stroke you call the stroke method. Yeah. The stroke method draws shape by stroking its outline. You draw just outline. Okay, the line stroke. Yeah. All right, so that's the first piece. The second piece, yeah, so you do the same thing, but you use a smaller circle, radius 50, okay? Everything else the same, and you fill the circle. After you draw the outline, you fill inner part of the circle. So you get this part. Okay. The last piece, we fill that pie shape, right? Pie shape. Yeah. So now, okay, yeah, start pi over 7. Pi over 7. Okay, positive pi over 7. Okay, yeah. And negative pi over 7. Yeah. Counterclockwise, right? Yeah, because false corresponds to counterclockwise. Yeah, but after that, line 2 function, you need to call that line 2 function. At the end point, you move your cursor to line 2, to that location. Yeah. After that, then you fill. Yeah, because your endpoint, start point can be connected, then fill. Okay, yeah, fill the interior part. Yeah, so then you get the third piece. Yeah. All right. So in this way, yeah, you can see we can draw many different kinds of figures. Yeah. Some of them could be very complicated. And we can draw these figures in a dynamic way. Yeah. So when the users do some actions, then we create some figures. Yeah. So you can see the potential. The potential is huge with all these features. Yeah. All right, so we finished part 8.1.